We're going to wait for a couple of people to get in here. It's Thursday, so time for a little political talk. Political Thursday, we'll call it. I just had an unbelievable conversation with somebody who basically specializes in international law, in Israeli law. Simcha Rothman in his name. I am going to do a live feed with him maybe next week, even from the Knesset, with this new law that's coming out. I want to give everybody a little bit of background. This was truly, truly shocking. I'm going to have to make another live actually in Hebrew because I think that the people in Israel, I'm just sorry for looking down, I'm just inviting people here. The people in Israel have to hear this just as much, if not more, I would say, than the people who are living overseas. What I just learned about the Supreme Court of Israel is truly, truly shocking. I'm almost frustrated with what I just learned, with what Simcha Rothman just taught me about the Supreme Court of Israel. I really am truly shocked about this, and I'm going to let you in of information about it, because I think it's going to shock everyone out there. Hey, David, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Israel, David. Really, really am. Gene, his explanation was incredible and shocking at the same time. Hey, Jonathan. So here's the situation. Okay, in Israel right now, there's two major internal political things going on in Israel. And, you know, the truth of the matter is I'm really utterly shocked. Natan, how are you? Natan, you're not going to believe this. I'm utterly shocked. Disgusted, but utterly shocked with what I learned about the Supreme Court just now. Michael, how are you? Happy birthday, Michael. So right now in Israel, there are two internal wars going on, arguments. One is about the town of Amona. Now, Amona is a small town that's built, connected to the town called Ofra. You want to call it settlement, whatever you want to call it. The funny thing is, it comes from the book of Joshua, when it says one of the towns to be built near Ofra, it's supposed to be called Amona. But we're not going to go into this history of the land of Israel belonging to the nation of Israel. We know how that works. But what happens is there's been a lot of arguments in Israel saying that Amona was built on private land. Now, I'm going to say something which might shock many of you. No, in today's world, in today's Israel, you're not allowed to steal someone else's land and build on it. Okay? I said that. You hear what I just said? You're not allowed to steal someone else's land and build on it. Okay? So when this argument was going on, I wasn't at all, I wasn't in any kind of doubt in my mind. Amona is Amona. It's a city. It's a Jewish city. Jewish people live there. And there's no excuse for the Israeli government to bulldoze down houses for whatever reason. And we saw it happen in Gaza. I'm not going to go back there. I'm not going to go back there, okay? Hey, Ephraim, how are you? Please, everybody share this. This is so important. And of course, before I go into this, as I always do, all political arguments aside, there are things that are beyond politics here. One of the things that are beyond politics are the men and women of the IDF, and I'm working night and day to try to, support them and help them and show them support from all over the world. And so what we're doing right now is we are in the middle of a major campaign to supply all Border Patrol soldiers with winter gear. And we have literally over 10,000 Border Patrol soldiers who we're trying to get to. I do need your help. So there's the link right there. I believe that's the link. There's a link right there for all of you. I would like to get to at least, it's $100 a pack. I want to get to at least 10 packs before this broadcast is over. Hey, Karen, how you doing? Okay. So, for those of you signed on again, there's an internal war argument going on. One is with Amona, and Amona is a Jewish town that's built off this town of Ofra. And there was argument saying that this town was built on private Palestinian land. Now, again, like I said, you cannot steal someone's house and build on it, okay? I'm not going to go any further than that, but thank you, Ricky. There's the link right there. Everybody, please do. If everyone on, with 20 people on, if everyone donates one pack, we'll have 20 soldiers covered. All right, so when I heard the reports about Amona being built on private Palestinian land, something felt wrong. It really did. In other words, I wanted to know if that was true, then how come nobody was arrested? How come no Jews were arrested for kicking the people out of their land or or threatening them, or I don't know, any way you want to put it. If someone stole someone's house, if someone came in and stole someone's land, right? So in that case, forget about destroying homes. Somebody's got to be arrested, right? That's steal. You're not allowed to steal. Stealing has to be punishable by jail or I don't know what. But it's not just we're going to destroy your house. If someone stole something, right? Ganav. If I steal something from you, giving it back is not enough. I did something illegal. I should be arrested for it. So I always thought to myself, well, if it's stolen private land, number one, why isn't anyone getting arrested? And number two, how come I never heard of the Arab family or the person who is the private person who's complaining about his land being stolen? In other words, if I come at your house and I wreck your house and I start building another room and you say, hey, get out of my house. This is my house, right? So we go to court, you show your papers of ownership and they throw me in jail for trespassing. I mean, that's the law. So I'd always boggled my mind or was curious why, if someone stole land, if someone came into someone's land or house, kidnapped their house or I don't know what, not kidnapped, but stole their land. So forget about destroying houses. Somebody's got to be arrested for trespassing. And nobody was discussing this. So, as being a right-wing, very, very Israel-loving right-winger, loyal to Israel as a Jew, it didn't really bother me that much. In other words, it wasn't on my court to prove that we are allowed to build in the land of Israel. It was always, well, I want to see the proof of that. In other words, if you claim it's your land, let me see your proof of purchase or proof of ownership. And I never dug into it much deeper because if the left had that proof of purchase, it would be all over the papers. I mean, everything from the Times of Israel to the Jerusalem Post to Haaretz to Yediot Achronot, all the papers in Israel would have been completely covered with the poor Arab family whose land was stolen by the people of Amona, and it was never in the papers. So doesn't anyone care about that? Doesn't anyone say, well, one second, if it's private land, who are these private people? We know the left-wing press in Israel, certainly in the world, would love to cover this Arab family whose land it was. So where are they? Who are they? And the answer is they don't exist. Okay, and this is really, really infuriating. What happened here just now? I can't even believe it. So what happens is the following: Israel has what's called zoning. Okay, and so there's state land. State land exists everywhere. Judea, Samaria, all the parts of Israel is state land. Now, whatever is not state land has a premise of being private land. Doesn't mean to whom. It doesn't mean that this person has a right to be on that land, but only that you cannot build on that land. In other words, it's known as non-state land, and they put into a case of private land, even though there is no private person who's saying it's mine. Okay? Good. So what happened was Amona, this village, this Jewish town where Jews built their homes with government funding. Understand, it wasn't Jews who hammer and nails, although there are those who do that, and it's fine, but it was with government funding. Electricity and roads and whatnot. They built Jewish homes in this town of Amona, right? And there were no claims of, hey, you're building on my land. Get off of my house. Okay? Moshe Starashevsky, I've been to Amona so many times. So much of the land has been bought by Israelis in Ofra. That is true too, but we're not even going to go there. It gets much worse than that, Moshe. Listen to this. So there have been no complaints, and we're talking about tens of years. And then in 2006, the left-wing organization Peace Now, and I say this, Peace Now, War Tomorrow, that's exactly what they are. Peace Now and another organization called Yesh Din, there's law. They came and basically went to the Supreme Court of Israel and say, hey, these Jews are building on private land, right? Now, the courts did not say, okay, well, where are those private people whose land it is? They didn't even say that. They didn't ask for it. What happens is the Supreme Court in Israel has ultimate power. There are no checks and balances here. Whatever the Supreme Court says goes, and it's worse than that. Anybody, what Simcha told me, we're going to do this another time with Simcha together. Anybody has the right to go to the Supreme Court and say, hey, and demand anything. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be relevant to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is, I'm not going to say it's God's word. In other words, one Supreme Court, that's it. Nowhere to go. The Supreme Court has taken itself ultimate power. Now, let's say that's okay because it's the Supreme Court, right? That would be fine if we're talking about legal issues. but they have already stepped their foot into policy. The Supreme Court, listen to this, it's like undemocratic. The Supreme Court is dictating to the state of Israel, the government of Israel, the democratic elected government of Israel, dictating to the government of Israel policy. That is ridiculous. But the second you open your mouth about the Supreme Court doing that, the second you say to the Supreme Court, hey, you're not allowed to do that, they brand you as going against the Supreme Court, being anti-democratic. Let me reiterate what I just said. The Supreme Court is basically trying to dictate, I'm sorry for looking down, I'm inviting the other people, dictate to the government, the democratically elected government of Israel. The Supreme Court is dictating to them what policy can, should, and cannot be. It is simply out of whack with any kind of democratic regime in the world that the Supreme Court is allowed to do that. So what happened was Peace Now and one other left-wing organization went to the Supreme Court and said, because Amona is outside the state land zoning, we demand that you destroy the houses and kick the Jews out. Now, what's key here? Key is there is no one who's moving in. It's not that if the Supreme Court, God forbid, well, not the Supreme Court, yes, if the government carries out this destruction of Jewish homes, that an Arab is going to move in. There is no Arab family that's moving in. There is no claim by an Arab family that it's their land. This is simply a zoning complaint. And it was done by the left-wing anti-Israel organizations that run from Israel and get fundings from everyone, including the European Union, to other anti-Israel organizations. We're not going to go there now. But understand, when I was hearing this story, even as a right-winger, I was like, whoa, man, we took this land from a poor Arab family like a shepherd. I'm not okay with that. But it didn't happen. The land was not being farmed or used. There were no houses on the land. It was empty. The problem is it wasn't even the Arab family that came up. It doesn't matter. It was the left-wing organizations that came up and complained to the Supreme Court that that Amona was outside the zoning of state land, and by default means it's private land. It's not that they came with an Arab and said, oh, look at this poor guy. And because the Supreme Court is stepping on Israeli policy and dictating Israeli policy, and they are as left-wing organizations as you can possibly get, unfortunately, and they're losing trust within the public for that reason, they said, yes, the houses must be destroyed. But not because they were on Arab land, because they were built on outside of the zoning of Israeli state land, which by default means it's private land. Again, there is no person there. I hope you're all getting this, okay? This is infuriating. All right? So now, hey, Brian, how you doing? So what happens now? Already in 2006, it was horrific. There were horses trampling Jews. The police were, hundreds of thousands of shekels were sued for police brutality. It was a horrific scene of seeing Jews, being stampeded by horses and hit with batons of the Israeli police. It was a horrible thing to see. But it finished. Now what happened was, Shalom Achshav, Peace Now, again, I could Peace Now, War Tomorrow, once again woke up with Yesh Din, and once again went to the Supreme Court. And once again claimed, oh, look, all of Amona and all of Afra are built on the same non-zone land. And again, remember, we are not talking about some poor Arab family who was kicked and living in the fields. It doesn't exist. This is a bureaucratic, judicial, political issue. It has nothing to do with the human side here. Nothing, people. Even if the Israeli government is stupid enough, excuse my language, to destroy their homes, people are not moving in. There's no Arabs to come to take over that land. There's no Arabs who claim really it's theirs. Now, the Arabs Shalom Achshav found 10 Arabs, 15 Arabs, said, come say you have a connection to the land. So they said, we farmed the land. Okay, but again, what was their proof of ownership there? Absolutely nothing. They don't have to bring ownership because this is not really an ownership issue. The issue here is really infuriating. The issue here is the following. Jews living in Amona have to prove it's not someone else's, and it's not that someone else has approved that it's theirs. You understand that? The people who are living there in houses, they have to prove that the land does not belong to someone else. The person who's claiming the land is theirs does not have to prove that they have ownership. And there is no one who's coming with that proof. It's absolutely, this is a political issue that the Supreme Court is getting involved with Israeli policy, and they're horrifically left-wing and biased. This is absolutely ridiculous. Now, let me just go a little further and explain just how far this rabbit hole goes. And I said this word rabbit hole many times, for the left-wingers and this and that, this rabbit hole, they're building themselves a wonderland, and they're convincing everyone around them that this is reality. And it's a lie. Let me show you how deep this rabbit hole goes. Bezalel Smotrich, one of the MKs in the Knesset, an unbelievable talented individual, smart, religious, not that that's, but he's really sincerely religious and smart. He started an organization called Regavim many, many years ago, which basically catch illegal buildings of the Arabs and of the EU. For those of you who are not aware, the EU is building in Judea and Samaria illegally and then putting EU flags on those buildings, putting Arabs in them, occupants, and then by de facto trying to make, Arab land. It's illegal. Regavim has exposed them. The Israeli government has destroyed some of those houses, but of course, they're not doing it enough. So when Bezalel Smotrich became a member of Knesset, and I will give a little disclaimer, my brother is working for him as a parliament assistant. So he now put together a law which is basically built to settle the settlement issue. And what it basically says is the following, okay? And this exists. What Simcha Rothman told me, we're going to have him on. I'm going to have him on again. Unbelievable information. This has to be shared. People just don't know. It's just mind blowing. If you are in Tel Aviv and I find an empty lot, and I don't know whose lot it is, and I build on the lot, I build a huge, I don't know what, a $10 million property, okay? And someone says, 10 years later, hey, that's my property, and I didn't know that. There was no proof of that. So if the building is worth $10 million and the land was worth $10,000, they don't destroy the building. You pay the person who's claiming after he brings proof that it's his, you pay that person the $10,000. That's what happens in Israel, and that's what happens all over the world, right? No, it's not that he kicked you out of your home. That's not what happened in Amona either. So that's what usually happens, okay? And if you go to court and say, hey, that's my land, you have to prove ownership, and then the person who built on that land, who did not know, has to pay you damage, has to pay you the amount for your land, okay? What Bezalel Smotrich just did was he's making a law which says the same law that stands for within, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa, whatever it is, will stand also in Judea and Samaria. If an Arab, hey, Sultan, how are you? If someone comes along, an Arab, a Muslim, Christian, doesn't matter, and says, hey, or Jew, forget Muslim. If a Jew comes along, hey, Sharon, how are you? If a Jew comes along and says, hey, you built your house on my land in Judea, right? So I say to him, okay, show me proof of ownership. And then I find out how much the land was worth. If it's worth less than the house that I built, so I pay him the amount of the land as payment after he shows me, proof of ownership. Hey, Dylan. Okay? So what he's trying to do is trying to put the law of the land over the law of the land. Now, what does the left do? They go crazy. I put a video up a couple of days ago about this. The left went crazy. Instead of saying, hey, Bezalel Smotrich, that's a good idea. I think we should finally have law. I think we should finally, treat Judea and Samaria like the rest of Israel. Instead of doing that, and they can't face the truth. They can't say, well, you're right. It should be that way. So what do they say? Oh, you're attacking the Supreme Court. You're anti-democratic. What is anti-democratic about asking someone for proof of ownership and then treating it like everywhere else in Israel or in the world? That's not anti-democratic. Attacking the Supreme Court? What's wrong with attacking the Supreme Court? I thought you're allowed to do that in a democracy. The Supreme Court is horrifically biased, period. That's what I believe. You're going to put me in jail for that? So what happened was Bezalel Smotrich made a law and said, look, in Israel, all over the place, Haifa, Tel Aviv, wherever you are, it doesn't matter, Yerushalayim, whatever you are, if you built on a land that you thought was empty, and then somebody years down the line, hey, that was my land, right? So you decide, is the land worth more than the building you just built, or is the building you just built worth more than the land? If the building is worth $10 million and the land is worth $10,000, like I said before, what you do is you pay the person after he brings proof of ownership, you pay him the $10,000, which was the worth of his land. So what happened in Amona is not we built, settlers, evil settlers. No, the state of Israel built. All the groundwork, the roads, the water, the electricity was paid for by the state of Israel. Israel sent those Jews to live there. So now, because two left-wing anti-Israel organizations come out and catch you on a zoning issue and claim it's private land, the Supreme Court gives their ruling like they're God and say destroy Jewish homes. Now understand, no Arabs are moving in, and there's been no proof of ownership. So what basically is going on here is pure political hijacking by the Supreme Court. Now, originally, this rule originally was including Amona, right? But people say, well, that makes sense. Amona is built on private land. Wrong. There is no reason for this law to be taking Amona out. All this law states is that if you claim that this is privately your land, you show proof of ownership, and then you get the money of how much your land was worth. Now, if it wasn't a poor Arab, shepherd or whatever other family in the area who were going to move into this area afterwards, then I could understand why they took Amona out of this law, because there's let's say consequence to people who are living in the streets now. Doesn't exist. There was absolutely no reason to take Amona out of this law. None. I don't understand why Bayit HaYehudi gave into this even. In other words, it's the truth. What is the problem? It's almost like you're in order to calm the left-wing crazies, you're destroying Jewish homes? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, Stephanie, it's total insanity. But this right now is a situation. Now, the biggest problem in Israel right now with this issue is the Supreme Court taking power into their hands, which they are not supposed to have. Imagine the Supreme Court of America dictating to the President of the United States of America what he can and cannot do in terms of policy, not in terms of legalities of his decisions, but in terms of what he can do or cannot do. This is totally ludicrous. The Supreme Court, I'll give you a perfect example. Simcha always also gave me, and this really has to do, it's a personal thing for me. The Gilad Shalit deal, and again, we're all happy that Gilad Shalit is home. All right? But there was an argument being discussed whether we should be letting out 1,000 terrorists, including 3 of them who murdered a friend of mine in 1993. Yoshua Friedberg was murdered by these people. And there was a political, governmental debate about letting out these terrorists. And the Supreme Court ruled, yes, let out terrorists. Who asked you? Who asked you? Why is the Supreme Court getting involved in government policy? Now, the problem is not that they're getting involved with government policy. The problem is that nobody can argue with them. The second you argue with the Supreme Court, you're deemed like an anti-democratic person, that you're attacking the Supreme Court. You're ripping apart the fiber of the Israeli, I don't know what. No, the Supreme Court is ripping apart the fiber of Israeli society. The fact that they're taking total unconditional power to themselves and getting involved in decisions they should not be involved in the first place is destroying Israeli society. They've got to stop this. So what's happening right now with Amona, and I want to be clear about this, okay? We were painted a picture, myself included, and I really did not understand this. I don't know, Josh, Wander, did you understand really I did not understand how deep this rabbit hole is. I really did not. Did anyone out there understand this? I'm reading comments. I certainly did not know. Go Bibi. You want Bibi to destroy Amona? I don't understand your comment. But Arnold, that's true, but they're not supposed to be. In other words, it's totally undemocratic. What's happening in Amona is the following. The state of Israel sent Jews to set up shop there, to live there. And they did. There's buildings, there's houses, there's kindergartens, there's schools, there's everything going on there. Israel, the state of Israel sent them there. Okay? Left-wing organizations caught a hole in the, what do you call it, like a seif. They caught a little hole in the script that they said, oh, it's not zoning part of the state of Israel, which means it's private land. We don't have the person who it's private belong to, but that's totally irrelevant. So what Israel is now doing, for some odd reason, and remember people, Netanyahu is now in government. You cannot blame the radical left wing for this, okay? And again, thank God the law that Smotrich brought up is now passing. The left is going crazy with that. Wait till you hear what happened today or last night. It was hilarious. But right now, the state of Israel is going to destroy 40 family homes for no other reason except maybe to, I don't know, let the left-wing organizations feel better. You're not making justice. You're not giving land back to anyone because there's no one who is saying it's theirs. This is it's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. But what Smotrich right now did, Bezalel Smotrich is an unbelievable thing. By the way, if you're not following him, he's a modest, very modest guy, but he's genius. He's one of the youngest members of Knesset, but he's making waves there. So this new law, this new settlement law, let's call it, is basically going to be saying to all the left-wing organizations, enough. You want to claim private land? Fine. 1, bring proof of ownership. 2, if you prove even the land is yours and the people who built on that land built innocently, then they will pay you the worth of the land. They will in no case destroy the houses on the land. That kind of activity is not done anywhere in the world. The problem is the left wing, along with the Supreme Court, and unfortunately the center right, even Likud, were painting this picture like it was built on a private land. You picture this poor Arab family out in the cold saying, oh, we want our house back. No such thing. No such thing. And that is why you did not see any articles about an Arab family who's out in the cold now. They should have been in Amona. They don't exist. It was a left-wing organizational ploy. And I call it a ploy. It's exactly what it was. It was a ploy where they caught a problem with the zoning issue. There is no Arab family who's claiming it's there. There is no Arabs who are moving back in. Furthermore, the people in Amona bought for very good money the land, even that there's a safek, even a doubt whose it is. Understand, Arabs without proof of ownership, they paid them loads of money for it. But the Arabs were scared because in the PA, in the Palestinian Authority, I would call it the Brood Squad, the terrorist organization, which is now governing over Arabs in Yehuda v'Shamron and Judea and Samaria. So in their law book, if you sell land to a Jew, not a Zionist, a Jew, you are punishable by death. That's right. Again, in the PA, Judea and Samaria, if you sell land to a Jew, you are punishable by death. Can you imagine if Israel would say if you sell land to an Arab, you're punishable by death? What would be going on in the press? What the New York Times and the Times of Israel would be running about these crazy settlers and right-wing nutcases? But it's okay when the Arabs do it because, hey, why not? Let's take the underdog. It doesn't matter if they're murdering us. So they have a law that if you sell land to a Jew, you are punishable by death. So in order to keep the people who got money from the Jews as some kind of payment for the land that they said that was theirs, they told these Arabs, look, we will not put it in the official taboo that it's ours. We will not write the name, whatever. And the Arabs said, please do that, keep us safe. Now, don't misunderstand what I just saying, thinking that the Arabs are written up as the owners. They are not. The money that was paid to them was out of the goodness of the people's hearts. That's all it was. There's no one in the top of what we say in the books that say this Arab family belongs to this land. There's nothing. The fields that the Arabs actually do have ownership of are not even in Amona. They're outside. There are 2 small areas in Amona where the left-wing people are claiming it belongs to Arabs. Of course, they cannot bring any proof of that ownership. And the Arabs who they brought in are saying, yeah, we farmed the area. Again, it wasn't farm number 1, but even if it was, farming an area doesn't make it yours. Okay? And so that's what's going on with an Amona. So when you hear people saying that don't destroy Amona, and they call them radical right-wing crazies, that is the typical strategy of the left-wing and in America progressive liberal trolls. This is what they do all the time. When they can't deal with the facts, they start calling you racist, fascist, warmonger. Trump got the whole thing of it. Again, I don't think Trump's a crazy, terrific guy. That's not what I said. But they couldn't deal with the facts. They couldn't deal with the issues. And if you're asking me who got Trump elected, it was Clinton's camp. They got their outright, blatant, what do I call them? Weapons of mass deflection. Go ahead, quote me on that. The left-wing weapons of mass deflection is what brought up Trump. People are sick and tired of it. The problem is information. See, when the press, the TV channels, and the newspapers are ruled by the left-wing ideologies, and that's almost every paper in Israel with the exception of the Jewish press, of Arutz Sheva, of Israel Hayom, which is a Bibi kind of paper, which is fine. Everything else is left, starting from Haaretz, Yediot Achronot, Ma'ariv, down to Times of Israel and the Jerusalem Post. They're all very left-leaning. So when they don't want to paint a picture, a truthful picture, they say, oh, they built houses on private land. And nobody even bothers to ask, really, whose land was? Because once it's a private land, we all picture the poor Arab family standing out in the cold. But it's a fabrication. It's a fantasy. It's Wonderland. They've dug the rabbit hole and they're trying to convince us that their Wonderland is a reality. It must stop. It's got to stop, people. Dan, how are you? We're talking about this. It's unbelievable. You gotta start getting the knowledge and the information of what's really going on and not just trust what the press is writing. I just gave you the facts. The facts are, again, 1, Amona is built out of state land. There is no Arab family that's sleeping out in the cold or has brought yet till today ownership of any land there. This whole Amona story is built on left-wing organizations who basically claim to the Supreme Court of Israel that because Amona is outside the zoning of state land, it is by default known as private land and not that there's a private person saying it's theirs. That is what's going on with Amona. The problem is the Supreme Court gave a ruling, and the Supreme Court's getting involved in policy, which they don't belong, and they're ruling you cannot go against the Supreme Court because they call you undemocratic. So again, I'm going to sum up what Smotrich is doing. He's saying that the same rule inside Israel, if I build on land, let me make this clear, not stole, kicked him out or I don't know what. If I built on land that was empty, years later someone says, hey, that's my land, and the building on the land is worth more than the land itself. So the person who built the building now pays the person who's claiming the land is theirs. When they bring proof of ownership, he pays them the worth of the land. All Bezalel Smotrich is doing is making a law that when anybody outside Judea, when anyone in Judea, Samaria, or anywhere else around the land of Israel claims that the settlements built on their land, they have to bring proof of ownership. By the way, if that rule didn't exist and it just goes by its mind, well, Judea and Samaria is mine. Why? Because we were ruling Judea and Samaria before Islam existed, before Arabs existed, before any kind of person dreamed of the name Palestine. So if you want to go to just by claims, I got it. So you don't want to go by claims, you want to go by real law, fine. Either bring a proof of ownership or get off my back. Let's see what Talia said, but very true. And yes, the Jews are the apple of God's eyes. Okay, if you read, okay. All right, so that's the situation. Does anyone have any questions? So again, when you hear arguments online about the people saying don't destroy Amona, oh, right-wing radicals, again, it's the same kind of strategy with the left wing. Call names, call us warmongers. We don't want peace. It's the same junk over and over. And I tell people, when you're fighting for Israel, when you're defending Israel, don't lose control, don't curse, don't call names. We have the truth. We have the facts, the bottom line. You don't need the other stuff. It's detrimental. And please, when they say that we occupied Palestine, please stop telling them we developed the cell phone. Please stop showing the bikini women in bikinis on Israeli beaches. That's not the way you're going to win a war. They're showing dead babies on the beaches. You can't show women in bikinis and think you're going to win a war. Stop it, people. Just stop, please. All those organizations out there, stop it. Don't do that. If you are too shy to fight the battle of truth, then get out of the business. Just stop it. It's so infuriating to me. If you cannot stand up and say, we never occupied an Arab place called Palestine, get out of the business. Don't do Israel any favors. But get out. Okay? Charlie, it's not just the left. Even the right is embarrassed to say it. Just stop. We have to learn to defend what's true. Don't go on with the narrative just because the world is saying it. It's time to stop that. Stop showing, yes, Israel's an amazing technological leadership in the world. A medical one, science, yes, that's all true. But that has nothing to do with the fact that the Arabs who fabricate history, and they did that in order to destroy Israel, must be exposed for what they are telling, lies. Why do people start pointing technology and this and that? That's all wonderful. What does that have to do with the fact that we never took a place from the Arabs called Palestine? Do people think that that's a deflection? Now look, I'm going to finish off with one more thing, and it's the following. People say, I had a long argument this morning with someone debate, and they were saying that it's just about land. It's not a religious thing. It's just about land. Okay, so look, number one, when you find me a terrorist in Israel who's killed Jews or Israelis who wasn't a Muslim, a radical Muslim, please let me know. And then I will maybe Believe it, it's not out of religion. Because only radical Islamic terrorists are killing people in Israel, number one. Number two, if you want to say it's about land, that means that if you take away that problem of land, if you tell me that when the Arabs have Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the Golan, and Gaza, everything would be fine. If you hold that ideology, okay, then we must go back a couple of years. Between 67 and 48, when all of Judea, all of Samaria, all of Gaza, all the Golan Heights, and the entire Jerusalem was in Arab control, and they were still calling for the annihilation of Israel. Stop it. This is not a problem of land. It's got to stop. This is a problem of radical Islamic terrorism. When Israel began, it was a problem with Arab nationalism. That's right. It mutated. That's right. Beginning it was Arab nationalism. Egypt was not a religious country at all. Okay, and when he was going to annihilate Israel in 1965, for what? He had all of Sinai. He had all of Gaza. Why are you annihilating Israel? So it's got to stop. Please, there are 36 people listening to this. I hope all of you will share this. Hope thousands see this. And everybody who watches this will start calling out the lies for what they are. Stop arguing with all kinds of, what do they call it, scarecrow kind of like, hey, stop. We have the truth. When someone brings up a false claim, answer it. If they say you occupied Palestine, ask for a year when that happened. Titania Kelva, SAR. When they say that, the Arabs are under occupation in Judea and Samaria, say wrong. The majority of Arabs are living under the PA. Everything civilly is under the PA. The only thing Israel's in charge of is security. It's not true. In Gaza, they're living under Hamas. The fact that they're not uprising against Hamas, even though the Arab Spring happened all over the world, should say something loud and clear. But there's no occupation of that either. When they talk about the apartheid wall, there is no apartheid wall because the wall does not separate Jews and Arabs. It separates Israelis and non-Israelis, whether the Israelis are Arab, Christian, or Muslim, or Jewish, or atheists. So you got to answer these questions and not get sucked into the lies. Please don't talk about cell phones or SodaStream, which Soda is awesome, by the way. I heard SodaStream talk the other day. They were absolutely awesome. It proves beyond a doubt that BDS hates prosperous Arabs, period. Forget Israel. They have a hatred for Arabs who are happy, who are working in SodaStream. It was unbelievable, the story that I heard. And the funny thing is, I was listening to Itai, I don't remember his last name. He's the marketing genius for SodaStream. I asked him about BDS. He said BDS was the most profitable thing that happened to us. And it's unbelievable how they changed the narrative. BDS made them look like the bad guys. SodaStream turned around and showed how well Arabs are living and making money under their business, and now BDS looks like the fool. So that was an unbelievable thing. But again, as much as that's awesome, that is not the way to fight the lies. Don't deflect. Don't deflect. We have the truth. Learn the facts. I am going to say it again. If you are scared or shy to stand up for truth and stand up for Israel, and you're too busy deflecting with all kinds of beautiful things like we built mobile phones or SodaStream or Waze, which are all great things. If that's what you're answering, the lies that people are talking about Israel, please stop defending Israel. You are doing damage. Just stop it. Okay? Just stop it. Get knowledgeable. Get the facts down. Get the truth down. Then defend Israel with those, not with deflections. We don't need deflections. Okay? And if you ever have any questions about, well, how do I answer this? How do I answer that? Just write to me. I'll give you the answers. It's not a problem. It's not really that big of a problem. All right. I'm done here. So I'm going to say good night to everyone. And I will be live from the old city of Jerusalem today. Hopefully it won't rain. Last week, as you don't know, my phone was destroyed from the rain. Talk about the Supreme Court again. Mayor. So I'll just sum it up. All right. Basically, the Supreme Court in Israel is a all-powerful body. They've given themselves all the power, and they're getting involved in Israeli policy. Now, again, in America, the Supreme Court does not get involved in government policy. Here in Israel, they're getting involved in government policy, but it's worse than that. There is no checks and balances. There's no checks of power with the Supreme Court. Dylan, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. By the way, before everyone goes, please, everyone who's watching, we've got 29 people here now. 30 people are here. I'm asking 31 people. Please hit on the link that I'm about to put down. Help me get to as many soldiers as I can this winter. We have some awesome winter gear that we're getting to the soldiers, and I need everybody's help to get to them. Please, I'm putting it in right now. It's stogether.org. Let me a second. stogether.org. One second. Hold on one second. It's stogether.org/winter gear. Hold on once. There it is. Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate that. Ricky just put it up. I'm asking 32 people on here. There's no excuse. I want 32 winter packs for 32 patrol soldiers, border patrol, who are freezing their rear ends off now. And we're just going to give them a little bit of support. So please, everybody, hit that link. Everyone just gives one. Forget about more than that. If you give more, it'll be great. One would be great. So about the Supreme Court, Shaya, what's going on, man? You going to be in yeshiva tonight? I'll see you. Supreme Court has taken full power to themselves, and they're getting involved in policy. So what happens is any Joe Schmo can go to the Supreme Court, complain about something, and they make a ruling, and that's it. The ruling doesn't do anything. The ruling does everything. Nobody can complain about that ruling. So when it comes to this Amona, left-wing organization went to the Supreme Court and said, well, Amona is outside the zoning of the state of Israel, and therefore, by default, it's called private land. Again, even though there are no private people or family or Arab or whatever it is that claims it's theirs. There's nothing. It's just by default, because it's not zoning of Israel, it's zoning of private land. And so the Supreme Court passed a thing that you have to destroy the houses. So as much as Netanyahu, I don't think, wants to destroy those houses, right? So what's happening is he's stuck because the Supreme Court is God, or they made themselves God, which is horrific. It's undemocratic. It's terrible. So Simcha Rothman, who I'm going to have on again, explained in such a beautiful way. It's really, really scary to see, but that's the situation with the Supreme Court. All right? People, thanks for stopping by. I do appreciate it. I hope everyone's getting something out of these videos. I'm doing it really to get the truth out there and to educate. I hope it is helping you. One, and again, I ask you two simple things. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate the compliment. One, please, please, please share this video. Let's get it out to as many people as possible. And two, please hit the link. And I can go to Amona. Yes, that's a good idea. I might have to do a show from there. Please hit the link. And everybody here, please donate at least one winter pack to soldiers. We're delivering them. We're going to be delivering them all next couple of weeks. And of course, I'm doing live shows from there as well when we do it, when we are at the bases. Okay? All right, signing off. I'll be live from Jerusalem tonight at around 11:30, 12 midnight Israel time. Count back 7 hours for Eastern Standard Time. I will be live for many, many hours there with the beautiful singing in the Old City as well as from the Old City. If you want to send a tefillah, a prayer to the cult, if you need a prayer said for yourself or someone you know who's sick or needs help or whatnot, please just private message me and I will bring it to the Western Wall when I'm there tonight. And then tomorrow at around 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I will be giving my weekly Parsha share on this week's portion that we'll be reading in Shul. All right? Thanks, everyone, for stopping over. I do appreciate it. Don't forget to share and hit that link, and let's say thank you to IDF soldiers. Have an awesome day, people. Those who are not signing in, not coming in tonight or tomorrow morning, I don't know why you're not, but if you're not, I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful weekend, peaceful one, and a spiritual one. Signing off from Judea, beautiful Israel. Hasta la vista.